So Danny decided to pick a classic RPG for us to discuss this week, and we're going all the ways back to the foundational days of the Soulslike genre. And thank you, by the way, to Mimicry for recording the footage of this for us. The new one is close enough to the original that like it can still speak in place of the original. But I also think that like it's an interesting perspective. Like, how would this game feel for someone who's never played Souls as well before?
I look at Demon Souls as kind of like a marker for me in like my gaming fandom, because so I've been, like I said, I've been playing games for years, with the exception of like early college years, like my 18 to 22 range. I kind of took a break from gaming. Outside of that, I've always been a gamer, but I've never considered myself good, like skilled at games.
You
And
never got
PS5. I never, yeah, right. I never got good, quote unquote. And the PS5 came out, and I was hyped because I wanted to play Miles Morales. I wanted a new system. It was like lockdown, COVID timeframe. I was like, yeah, more games. So I bought the PS5. I was very excited. But then I beat Miles Morales, and then I was kind of just in a place of like, oh yeah, this is a launch of a video game console, and there's like 3 games that came out for it that aren't like cross-plat with like, you know, previous generations. And I had heard about Demon Souls, the remake that had come out more or less like with launch, and I was thinking like, do I want to spend $70 on a game that I'm not going to enjoy because it's going to be hard and I'm not really going to enjoy myself with? And then I was talking to a few of my friends, and they were like, take your time, do all the YouTube research, do all of the Redditing and like whatever. And so I bit the bullet, and I sat down one night, and I played through, and something clicked. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was like the setting, because I'm just such a mark for like medieval knights and dragons and all that stuff. But I sat down, and I loved it. It immediately, I died, and I used to have such a low pain tolerance for like dying in a game.
That is the
and I died
Dark
a handful
Souls
of times.
experience. Yeah. Important question before you continue. Was this your first Souls game?
Yes.
Okay,
And
that's very important. Continue.
And that's the thing. I didn't really know about the formula. And there were 2 things that clicked for me that I think like rearranged my thinking. One was finally getting past, you know, a certain area of enemies that I was struggling with and kept dying at. That satisfaction, that rush that went through me of like, oh my God, I finally did it. Like that, or even just your first boss, like that satisfaction, screaming, like, yeah, like I'm so hyped about this. So that was thing number 1. And thing number 2 was the first time I found a shortcut. I found a shortcut, and I pulled the lever, and I went around, and I went, oh my God, now this is so much easier. I can get back here from like, not a bonfire, but you know, the equivalent of a bonfire. Those 2 things made me go, I think I can do this whole game. There's no difficulty settings, and I'm not going to be able to change much, but lo and behold, I went through it all, and I was addicted for the better part of a month. And I got through the whole thing. I'm not going to say I did it in the most skilled way. I definitely had a lot of spells I was casting on myself to like up my defense like 2 or 3 times.
If the game puts that in the game, then it's completely valid. You're not being cheap by using the mechanics that the game gave you.
Right. I didn't put any cheat codes in or anything like that. I found a good weapon, and I kind of stuck with that weapon for a while. I found some good armor, shield, and whatever. And now I haven't played all of the Souls games. Funny enough, I haven't played any Dark Souls period, but I've played through Elden Ring. I played through about like half of Bloodborne. And now Souls-likes, like in the genre, I'm really into. Like I'm excited for Lies of P. I'm playing through Blasphemous 2. I already played through all of Blasphemous 1. It kind of opened the door for me to find more games more interesting. And now if I buy a new game, like whenever Spider-Man 2 comes out, I'll be playing on hard. That is now my new normal. And if I'm really feeling frisky, I'll go like the setting above that. But it is rearranged the way that I look at games now.
That's awesome.
So what you're telling us is you got good.
One might say, yeah.
You
It's
became the...
GUD Gamers
Oh
Club.
yeah. I was going to.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have played a little bit of Demon Souls. It's on my backlog. It's one that I want to get back to. I love that it's on PS Plus, and I'm going to get to it eventually.
yeah.
There's just so many games right now to play.
This is not the year.
Incredible. I'm really looking forward to Remnant 2. I want to play that one a lot. That's another. It's a Souls-like, but a shooter. Yeah.
I totally forgot that was a month ago, maybe something like that.
Yeah. It's gotta suck to be releasing games in 2023 that aren't on that short list of
You could have just ended that sentence right there.
Yeah.
Just releasing games in 2023.
Look at all the studios that are shutting down or laying off half their workforce, and in a lot of cases, those are studios that just released really great games, but there's just so much competition.
Yeah, it is wild that Demon Souls was kind of like the birth point of not only From and how From Software like develops games and stuff, obviously like culminating with Elden Ring. But yeah, there's a whole, I don't even want to call it a subgenre. Like it is its own genre and industry of like so many games are like, this is a Souls-like, this is a Souls-like.
Right.
Like every week I feel like there's a new one getting announced. Which I know some people are like, I'm not into them, so that's kind of a bummer. But if you are into them, man, you are eating good nowadays.
I think that I actually do have some experience with Demon Souls. I got it back on the PS3 when before it was this big thing, and there was just a lot of gossip in like the fan communities about how this game was trying to bring difficulty back to video games. And I don't think a lot of people realize just how watered down games were at that point. They were so watered down at that point that there just was not any desire to create challenging games, because they were convinced that like if there wasn't challenge, then people wouldn't finish the games and they wouldn't get to see the content that they made. First of all, they already got your money, so who cares? Secondly, it did change the attitude to where now developers are designing their games with challenge in mind, and then like the normal modes or the easy modes are kind of like developing downwards. So they take the hard modes, then they like reduce the stats or change the tactics and stuff so that it's more accessible to other people.
I was just getting that. I'm personally not really motivated by difficulty. That's not one of the things I look for in games. But I think it's interesting that it sounds like you were kind of the same way. But this, as you said, it kind of flipped your brain or rewired your brain for that.
Yeah, it. I think what I used to do with games is like, let's plow through. There's so many games. Let me play through and experience whatever story they want me to. And a buddy of mine who helped me get into the series was like, you paid $70, right? I was like, yeah, I paid a lot of money for this. This is not jump change. And he's like, why not milk every hour, every minute, every bit of experience that you can get out of it? And I feel like that's helped me appreciate games a little more with that higher difficulty. But the nice thing about Demon Souls, because I've now played through the whole game once, and then I went through again on a new save file, but as a different build, like that from an RPG point of view. Like that's what's really I've enjoyed about that and Elden Ring is depending on what class you go with or what weapons you go with, if you're going to be a caster versus are you going to be more melee. My first playthrough was mostly melee. I forgot what class I was, but I was mainly doing melee with the exception of the spell where I would like up my defense a whole lot. Outside of that, I was like hacking and slashing. So I went back and I was like, I wonder what this would be like if I'm going to peel back and like keep my distance from enemies, but cast instead. And it changed it up. It was like a totally different game at that point. So if you are feeling a little nervous about it, you could totally run it like as a caster and the difficulty is not as high. It's almost like there are difficulty settings, but they're not like in a menu. It's more that you have to kind of determine what will be the easier route for me to go through, again, weapons or classes or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like specifically Dark Soul or Demon Souls, ignoring like the genre and its conventions, what was it about Demon Souls that you loved? Like we all know about the gameplay, but like the setting, the way it presented itself.
Well, for one, I think that maybe to this day, it's like the prettiest video game I've ever played. Like from a fidelity point of view, like I remember sitting there going, "Oh my god!" Like the first stage. If you haven't played, I'm not sure like what the footage is right now, but like it is your classic castle, and my build was like a knight. You know, like a traditional.
Literally, what's on
metal,
the screen right now.
Oh, perfect. Like that's how I ran it. And I, even putting aside the lore of the world, which I thought was interesting, I was just more so mentally putting myself of like, you're just a knight and you're going to go into a castle and you don't know what's going to be in there. Like that setting, while stereotypical, I think was the perfect way to start the game for me because it really bought me in. The other worlds are not necessarily like that. Like there's like a mining facility that's very like yellow and orange, and like there's a fire demon in there and whatever. But that first opening sequence was such an easy sell for me. Like I still love playing that initial first stage to this day, just because it's just a really fun setting. But the lore itself, what I think I really enjoyed was that not a lot of it was spoon fed. It's not like there's too many cutscenes. It's not the thing where I'm like, oh, geez, boring. Like, yeah, click,
Right.
click, let me get through this. It is more, you have to really pause and consider and look around and go, oh, wait, why do I hear, like with the 3D audio, why am I hearing like torturing happening? Like, what is that? Like, that sounds like a terrible monster. You end up fighting that monster later on. It was way more satisfying getting that lore that way rather than it being spoon fed to me.
That's what makes it a video game. Like, the video games are not movies. I'm cool with cutscenes and everything, but it's okay to have a game where there's barely any cutscenes and you discover the world yourself. You find the story, you find the creatures, you find the optional bosses, and instead of like having a cutscene where the dragon comes down and burns the bridge, the dragon literally just comes down and burns the bridge.
Right,
and
right.
If you walk in front of that, well, tough shit. You're going back to the bonfire and traveling back yourself. That was your own fault. There's no cutscenes here to keep you safe or give you plot armor. And
well, words you also mentioned earlier, like in that era when this game came out of like games with difficulty, I think something that also happened, maybe even later on, like in the mid-aughts or so on, was this thing where games were about giving you making you feel like a god. Like, look at God of War, like even the original ones. It
literally
was like, no,
making
you
you
will
feel
be
like a god.
literally, you are going to be taking down gods, and look how cinematic and big this big blockbuster moment was. I think Demon Souls makes you feel like a god because the dragon, like you just mentioned on that bridge, like that dragon's going to be flying down. There's ways to take down that dragon, but it's not in this big cinematic moment where there's like QTEs and whatever. You either have to figure out how to do it on your own or you just dodge it. And if you do manage to take down that dragon, oh, buddy, what a rush that gives you.
Yeah.
Because instead of making it go like, this is the thing that every single gamer will do while playing this game, if you have the fortitude or like the creativity to think, well, what if I kind of like camp out here and I like shoot a crossbow at it lots of times as it's coming through, you get rewarded for that.
Nim says the dragon is crazy to take down. It's a dragon. It should be. Like,
Right.
if the dragon is the most powerful thing in your game, you're designing your game wrong.
Right.
Has it inspired you to check out the others?
I haven't done Dark Souls yet, and this is going to be really lame. Like, this is the worst reason possible. When I go look at footage of any of the Dark Souls games, I'm like, oh yeah, that does look like it came out in 2013, like visually, graphically. And there's so many games right now that I just haven't like gone back and played.
There is a remake of the first one.
Oh, there is. Oh, okay.
It's a little better.
A tad bit. Okay, then I should go out and try that one. Like, I have learned enough from Demon Souls, like the formula, and obviously through Soulslikes as well, like the finding the shortcuts, the backtracking, and so on. Whereas Elden Ring, I think that was part of my rationale too, is I thought Elden Ring will one day come out. I want to play that. I want to understand it, but I don't want to be mad about it when I'm playing it. So maybe I cut my teeth with Demon Souls And that's what ended up happening. Admittedly, I don't think I got through all of Elden Ring because I think I had a difficulty wall that just like drove me nuts.
Yeah.
But I have gone back, and it inspired me to do Elden Ring for sure.
Well, we'll see if we can have you back at a later date and see if you've finally managed to experience the rest of what Dark Souls has to offer.
Oh my gosh!
How much of it's sold?
Games.
Yeah, how much of it's sold? It's you'll be the Get Good Gamer Club by the time we get back to you. Hey there, folks. I know nobody wants to listen to a creator shill themselves for 90 seconds, so I'm not going to. If you enjoyed this, we do the show live every Sunday on Twitch at 6 p.m. BST. Feel free to pop over TNEQL. And if you would like to support us in making the channel bigger and helping it grow, you can also check us out on Patreon, also at TNEQL. Take care of yourselves. Stay beautiful.